We'll call this meeting of the Silver City Town Council to order. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I could ask Councillor Thompson to read our mission statement.
Thank you, Mayor. Silver City is the hub of an inclusive community settled within a small town that, through guided growth, honors and preserves its historical, cultural, and natural heritage, while facilitating jobs, health, and education resources, such that the residents and visitors may enjoy and protect the recreational opportunities of the area and a high quality of life.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, with anything, is public input. I remind everybody that you have 5 minutes to speak. I'll try to give you a 1-minute warning if you're looking at me. And I wanted to do it a little bit different. I'm going to make a few comments before we get into that regarding the fireworks issue. One is, I'm going to read this little release I have from the governor's office. Governor Susana Martinez will seek and support legislation in this fall's special legislative session that would give cities, counties, and the state the authority to enact more comprehensive and total bans on fireworks during high fire danger circumstances like we are facing now. Spokesman Scott Darnell told the Journal this afternoon. A special session is expected in September to deal with redistricting and other issues. A decades-old New Mexico law prohibits state and local governments from issuing a total ban on the sale and use of fireworks. Though Albuquerque and other jurisdictions have banned the most dangerous types, said John Stanifer, the state's fire marshal, Albuquerque has taken all the steps it can under the law to ban fireworks, such as barring aerial fireworks, such as bottle rockets, and ground-audible fireworks, such as firecrackers. The city has also imposed Stage 2 fire restrictions in the bosque and open spaces, which bars any open flames or fireworks. The law called the Fireworks Licensing and Safety Act also requires local governments to issue a formal drought declaration based on scientific data before it can take such steps, such as barring fireworks from public lands, Stanifer said. Check with your local city or county government to find out what fireworks restrictions apply in your area. Albuquerque did what they did. Silver City enacted through our fire chief actually stricter rules than Albuquerque. The other good news that I want to address tonight is I just got off the phone less than an hour ago with the vice president of TNT Fireworks, who is the wholesaler in the 2 large tents that are in Walmart and Food Basket parking lot. And the good news is they will not sell fireworks. The discouraging news is not all displayed behavior that's becoming of a citizen of Silver City and confronting the vendors. And as much as we all support free speech and the picketing and making sure that you're able to get your opinions out there, assault and aggression on our neighbors and our families and our citizens is not acceptable, and we do not condone that. Please be professional, be polite when expressing free speech, and let's remember these people work and live in our community as well. And it is my understanding that the TNT did work with the vendors to let them out of their contract, and not just, when just TNT called them and said no. So I think everybody was responsible in their actions, and I totally support that, and we'll work with TNT in the future, and we'll make sure that we come up with safe activities that involve their industry. And once again, I just remind everybody you have 5 minutes to speak, and I will try to give you a 1-minute warning. If you're speaking on the notice of intent ordinance, I'll ask you to hold those comments because it is on the agenda, and you'll have a time to speak when it comes up on the agenda. The first person to speak is, and I'm sorry if I screw up your name, Azima Lila Forrest, regarding fireworks.
Well, I was the organizer of the picketing and the boycotts, and I want to thank the owners of Food Basket and the manager at Walmart and James Coons for all doing everything they could to make sure that this is what happened. And I want to thank the people of Silver City who turned out and wrote letters and made phone calls to see that what they felt was so important would come about. Congratulations to everybody. I would like to urge that the City Council authorize and order that signs be made that say, whereas you may buy fireworks, you may not light them, because there may be people that don't even know that. And if there are places around town where people might see them, that would be a good thing, that people know that. I would like to urge that there not be town fireworks this year, even though I realize that people would be very, very careful. In 2007, the Forest Service did fireworks in Zion National Park and started a forest fire. And the last thing is, it's incumbent upon all of us, because there are people who already have fireworks. So even if there are none sold in Silver City, there are some people that have them. And it's our responsibility to call dispatch, which is 388-8840, and report it any time we see or hear fireworks being shot off. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sherry Wilcox.
Azima has addressed my issues and my appreciation, and I hope that I guess I'll get the county board of supervisors to go to court and get an injunction for this year. September is fine, but...
I'll address that in my comments in a minute.
Thank you.
Tracy, you're on the agenda. Lori Ford. Here she is. Missing. She's going to introduce herself. I could do a introduction for you.
Mayor and councilors and staff, I just wanted to introduce myself as the Executive Director of CATS, Community Access Television of Silver. And my name is Lori Ford. And I've been the Executive Director since the 15th, and having a blast. I wanted just to put out there that we are welcoming everybody and anybody into the studio. Mayor, you mentioned free speech earlier, and that's what CATS is about. We have a platform for free speech up there at CATS. So I look forward to working with all of you. You've been great to us in the past, and let's keep working together. And I probably will solicit some advice about how I can approach some other local governments. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Chuy Lopez.
Only 5 minutes?
Sorry.
That's all right. Mayor, city manager, and everybody else. Everybody knows me from before. I'm a retired firefighter with Silver City Fire Department. I've been selling fireworks for 10 years. The only reason I came up here because I already knew what was going to happen. But you got to remember, me, the selling fireworks, a retired firefighter, I know about the drought conditions. I know what's going on. But you got to remember, I want to educate you people on what's going on. I have to sign a contract. Well, I don't have to. I sign a contract every year in January or February to be able to sell fireworks. As the year goes down, I don't know what's going to happen. And as it was getting closer, I knew what was happening. I'm the drought condition. I'm a firefighter. I know. I approached the chief, even 2 months before. I said, and he kind of listened to me. I said, Chief, he said, I don't mind. No fireworks, no nothing. We do it for our church. I said, I don't mind. You know, the drought conditions, we don't want to sell. So it stayed that way, and the way conditions were, I said, hey, all right, we're not going to have to sell. Well, here, a few weeks later, TNT calls, says, your fireworks are on the way. Your tent has been set up. I thought to myself, well, what was going on? I figured, I thought to myself, well, they're going to, ban fireworks or whatever, but found out that, even the governor this morning said she's got her hands tied. She's nothing she can do unless it's through legislation. But even though, regardless, because of this, I was bound to that contract. That's why we were still up there. I mean, that's a contract, and they gave us the dates that we could sell. I mean, now my name was on it. Of course, the church is on it, but my name is on it for all these years. So if I didn't try to sell those days, guess who was going to have to pay? Me. So I said, well, if they give us the option that I'm going to have to sell, I'll go ahead and, try to sell it. If nobody buys it, great. But their stipulation is those dates that they have, I have to set up to sell in order for me to be able to take them back. And they'll give me credit for all the fireworks. Well, that's why we were still open. We were hoping to open in on Thursday, but then right before they call the mayor here, they called me before. They called me and it says, you're the only fireworks stand that has fireworks that's set up to sell. Food Basket doesn't have them. Bear doesn't have them. We had them. They said, it's your option. I said, you got the dates to sell if you want to. I said, no. I said, I got a legal binding contract with you guys. He said, no, we can release you, like what you said. We can release you from the contract. I said, good, that's all I want to know. Because I didn't want to sell them. But my name is on it, and by law, I would have to do it. And they released me, and then I told the pastor up there, he's up there at the tent staying there with those fireworks. I told him, hey, they released me from the contract. We do not have to sell. We didn't want to sell them, but I was bound for that. I said, great. Praise God that we don't have to sell them because of the drought conditions. Another thing I think that to mention, I think when the Sun News had mentioned about all these fires, and I understand these fires have been happening. Remember, those fires weren't related to fireworks. And a lot of people don't know that. These are man-made cause fires. One other thing I need to mention, and James, I'll step down. It's great. We're not going to fight. We're not going to sell, which is great. We didn't want to. My name is off of it, so I don't have to. Next year, it's still going to be on there, and it depends on. Hopefully they'll do the right thing to where we don't want to. If they ban them, let's ban them. Good. Let's still got one more minute. So just remember this, and I think somebody mentioned it earlier. I mean, even though there's no fireworks sales, there's still going to be fireworks there. I've heard them all night long. And that's not anything that we've sold. They're going and buying them. So, like it says, all we need to do is put the word out there, you cannot sell them. You cannot sell them, and if you do, you will be fined. And they knew that, so we'll see what happens from here on. So I'm released from that contract. So that's what I wanted in the first place. But I was bound, so that's about all I got to say. Thank you.
Next is Hassani Kudura. It's ATVs on Boston Hill.
Hi. I'm concerned about another fire issue as well. I live right at Boston Hill, and I hear ATVs up in there. I sent a letter to our previous city councilman, but it got lost in the shuffle, I think. I hear them now early in the morning, late at night, and I know that it's illegal to have them there, and I think it's also a fire danger. And I don't know quite what to do. Even back when we had the snow, there were ATV tracks, and it's not good for the environment, and that's supposed to be a protected environment as well. But I've seen the tracks lately. I've seen the dry grass mashed down, and I think there was a fire somewhere recently that was started by an ATV. So I don't know what to do unless I actually see them. I don't know what kind of enforcement there is available. People say, well, just call the police, but it's 500 acres. And then there's a part of it that is privately owned. I've tracked it to one entrance. Most of the trailheads are fenced and they can't get in. I know that there's one where they come in frequently at the corner of California Street. And there's a trail that ends there, and they come in. So I don't know what to do about it. I'd like to bring it to your attention, and I think all of us that live around there would be glad to take some action if we knew what to do.
Thank you. Next is Jeffrey Scott, Fireworks Fire Danger.
I want to commend the recent decision of the governor to get this issue of fire danger addressed. I think that's very important. I'd also like to say that I think we need some type of proactive remedy this summer. I'm no legal expert. Maybe it might involve some local court injunction. I'm not sure about that. But I do feel that the danger is very high, and something needs to be done to address the danger and make this community more safe and other communities safer this summer. It just seems like a very common sense issue. If we're in danger, and we are, we need to take whatever steps we can to make ourselves and our environment more safe, and just figure out the particular political moves or the particular governmental moves to make that possible, and do what our common sense and wisdom tells us we need to do. So that's all I have to say. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I just encourage you to stick around, even though the public comment, there's still business on this. The chief's going to talk, and we have some other business on the agenda that pertains to most of your concern here. Next item on the agenda is council comments, and Councilor Bettison, would you like to start?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I want to thank our town attorney, Robert Scavron, for his excellent work in developing a very comprehensive policy statement that the mayor presented this past weekend, to the New Mexico Municipal League Public Policy Committee, which seeks to amend the current state law to provide municipalities with the ability to restrict any and all fireworks under these type of conditions. It pretty much, I think, passed that committee at that point and went on to, it'll be on Resolutions Committee, which is our steps that we take in the New Mexico Municipal League. There was one amendment which was to say that we can restrict any firework up to and including a complete ban. It would be under these same conditions. So I just wanted to make sure that you all understand that we're taking at least those steps through our league to do that, and to encourage the legislature and governor to hopefully get this law changed sooner rather than later. I also want to thank everyone that's emailed or called with their concerns about fireworks. I appreciate the opportunity to learn about your concerns and then to talk with you about what the town has been able to do and what the county has done and what I'd like to see done, what I would hope that we would be able to do someday. So thank you very much for all of that. And I really want to express something that I've told several people, and I want you all to know that if under these type of conditions, extreme and severe drought conditions, the council had the ability to ban fireworks as necessary for the protection of the health, safety, and welfare of our residents and of their property, I can tell you that I would be the first person to vote to do so. And I don't want you to think that it's not for lack of wanting to do it. It's for the inability to be able to do that at this point. I think Azima brought up a very good thing, to please call Central Dispatch. Please, if you actually see a fire, call 911. not just the non-emergency number. I know that our Silver City PD and our fire folks are going to be out there, and they are going to be doing everything they can to keep us safe. But if you can assist them by at least calling in, that would be appreciated. I really ask folks not to take it into their own hands. It's not going to be safe for you, and it's not going to be safe for the other folks that might be concerned. So just please call. And for those folks who have purchased fireworks elsewhere, other than the town of Silver City, I ask that you stop and think a minute before you light them. We have restrictions about open flame. And anything that produces an ash. But I really want you to stop and think about your families, the people that live around you, and your loved ones that live in other areas of Silver City and Grant County before you even begin to light it off. So I just really ask for our citizens to really think a bit this year, really consider what they're doing before they do it. A brief display is not going to give you the sort of enjoyment you may necessarily want if it results in a fire. So that's all I have on that part. I do want to ask Alex to briefly discuss the striping on Pope Street, since I've had some calls from residents about that, and I want you to explain to them what you explained to me today about what kind of happened.
Okay, basically we've got the striping plan. The striping plan was the original striping plan that is in the part of Pope Street that was reconstructed a few years back, and basically we had originally planned to redo the entire section of Pope Street, but because of funds we weren't able to. So we did have the striping plan, and we're just going to extend that same striping plan up to 180. We're waiting for some input from Bag and Wag, but as soon as we get that, we plan on piggybacking. We were going to piggyback off of this last one, but the state didn't even notify us that they were going to be striping that section. So we're calling the striper before they finish 180, this other section of 180, so that way they can paint at the same time.
Because I have to say that I left the next morning after our last council meeting when I asked this question, and when I came back on Thursday, I thought, wow, did the state listen to our broadcast? Because I had asked about the striping on 180 and then also on Pope. But thank you for letting folks know that we'll catch it this second time around.
Yes.
That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I met with Peter Penny about the striping, and he was very accommodating. We also talked about the swimming pool. I've gotten a couple emails from folks that were really impressed with Chris Marufo for fixing the swimming pool so quickly. And Peter Pena said it was a team effort. I guess the city shop was just spectacular in making a stint or something. And it was so, it sounded like they kind of had a good time, although it was 48 hours of constant work.
They were working 20-hour days.
Yeah, that was impressive.
To get it up.
Yeah, it was a fairly complicated solution, and everybody that enjoys the swimming pool, especially with the hot temperatures, really appreciated the work. And Peter Pena said that it was a team effort by a lot of folks. So.
And I just want to mention that the pool, we've hardly almost ever hit capacity. But there's been many times this year that we've been to full capacity, which is 420-some people in the pool. So there's been quite a few people.
Improvements worked.
Yeah, it's a spectacular facility, and the city's done really well with that. The other thing is the draft on the animal ordinance is almost done. At this point, the committee that's working on it, I think will be done on Wednesday, and then we'll pass it on to enforcement, make sure that it's enforceable, get their comments back, and to other interested folks. if you're interested in getting a draft of it, you can send me an email, and if you want that, I'll send you a draft on it so we can get some more input. That's it.
Thank you. Councilor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to apologize to the people for doing a wrong decision on the fireworks. I voted against the ban, and I now realize that it was a mistake, so I apologize to people. I'm sorry for it. Anyway, I want to thank the street department, Peter Pena, Alex Brown, for the work done on Ridge Road. They liked it. They said to tell you guys thank you. Also, I'm working on a couple of issues with Alex Brown on a park here in Silver, and some of the people there are asking to see that there's the public is using it as a public restroom there, and they don't want that there. Anyway, Mr. Brown and I talked about that. Also, I talked to Robert Esqueda about a possibility of having some sewer project there in the Half Moon Circle area, and he said that they are working on that right now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we've got a very good funding opportunity for both that Half Moon Circle and the Mountain View Road area. So we're going to submit for funding for both those projects.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My comments would be general as far as fire dangers and everything that we're presently in. And I'd like to convey to all our citizens to, again, make sure that we are keeping our weeds down and our trash picked up, because just even without fireworks, we are in a lot of danger. So we want to make sure that we mitigate all those risks as much as possible. And hopefully we'll have very few, relatively speaking, people utilizing fireworks, though I do anticipate that there are going to be a number of people doing so. So definitely be aware of everything that's going on around you, and be proactive and call 911. And please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, I do believe that Penny Park was started by a firework. So I'd like to convey the idea that fireworks are a danger and can start fires, and if that was to happen in this condition, we may be in trouble. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Bettis in row 2.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank the City Works Department, all the folks, all these guys have been going out and cutting down weeds and really cleaning up the roadways, the sites that are owned by the town, and I just really appreciate their work and cleaning up all of that and getting that out of the way. It's really important for us to keep on that, so I just would second what Councilor Morones had said about keeping your weeds down, especially right now. We haven't had a terminal event, and it will take a lot of rain before we're not in fire danger. So that's all.
Anybody else need row 2? Here we go. One is the public display that the town usually does on the 4th falls under the purview of the fire chief, and I will urge the council to support the fire chief's decision in doing that within the existing policies of the town in whatever decision he announces. I do have meetings coming up, and I've had some dialogue over the months with PNM regarding the night skies issues. Those continue. They're sending a crew of people down here that actually address those issues, that lights are shining in your windows and crossing property lines and wasting energy that we pay for. So we are going to continue to work with that, and I have some great advisors on that, as I'm not the expert, that they will attend the meeting with me. The highway project, we mentioned the striping. I'd really like to send another letter to Harold down at DOT. There's not much more paint than a thought about paint out there. And when you're driving and the sun is on either horizon, you cannot see those lines. That's right. And they're not full lines, they're not squared edges, because they have the nozzles turned down so low that, one, those lines are not going to last, they're not visible. We need to have them reject the payment on that contract and get them in here and do it right. It's just dangerous, and then we still have the tabs sticking up, so if you can't see the lines, you follow the tabs, you're crossing bicycle lanes, you're crossing other lanes of traffic. It's just very confusing, and I think we need to send a letter to Mr. Love explaining the danger that I believe they're creating. Myself and Nick Cicillo, wave Nick, we attended the Clean Energy Leadership Summit in Washington, D.C. a little over a week ago. And, fireworks is the theme of the meeting tonight. My job is to look at the global view and the global picture. And that summit had some really graphic displays of what we're facing. Broward County, Florida did a display. Their climate change that they're experiencing is causing flooding of long existing neighborhoods in Broward County twice a day with high tide. And they showed pictures of people standing in their driveway waving on asphalt, and when high tide came in, they were floating in their driveway. And that's happening with every high tide. Out here in the west, we're seeing hotter, drier, and everybody knows windier. And we are going to have to change some of the operations that we've done in the past. We're going to have to make some amendments on how we've managed our resources in the past. There was a great article that Nick gave me out of the Arizona Republic, where many of the environmental groups that sued on the forest thinning are now going back to the Forest Service and the citizens and saying, sorry. There's millions and millions of acres of forest that's overgrown and is jeopardizing not only the forests themselves, because, if you look at the Horseshoe 2 fire and you look at the map, it burned the entire mountain. And so it's not only endangering towns and cities, it's endangering the forests themselves because they're overgrown. And the buzzword, as I was learning in DC, is adaptation. And it's how are we going to adapt to the new climate that we're facing. And we're going to have to. And we're all seeing it. Things are changing. We're not going to stop it. And as I've said before, it really doesn't matter who caused it. To the governing body, it doesn't matter who caused it. We're going to have to adapt to it. And I'll leave the cause up to the scientists. They find much more importance in it than I need to in my role as the mayor. Likewise, on the global issue with the Municipal League and the resolution that we presented to the Public Safety Committee on Saturday that our attorney drafted so well and was very well respected by the committee that we presented to. That is what we're going to use that as an opening for a much larger issue. The state has taken it upon themselves to remove the local power to protect the life, safety, and health needs of you from the local governments. Well, we all know they meet once a year. We meet twice a month. We need to be able to adapt our laws, adapt our rules, adapt our regulations on the fly, in a hurry, as conditions change, and not allow the state to preempt our authority with regulating public health, safety, and welfare issues. It's very, very important. I've spoken with Senator Morales. We will be sending a letter to the Attorney General for an opinion on whether that is actually constitutional what they've done. Mr. Scavron has brought up some very good constitutional arguments, and I'll discuss those later on the agenda item. There's just many other issues where we're preempted from actually doing local government, and I think the state needs to assume their role in the state and worry about that business and let us worry about life, safety, and health of our citizens. When you elect us, you expect us to do something, and they've taken it upon themselves to preempt our authority. We're going to push that issue as far as we can and hopefully get some positive results so that we can address your concerns in a timely manner. And with that, we'll move on. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Next item is approval of minutes of the regular meeting, June 13, 2011.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor.
I move that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of June 13th, 2011.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to second this.
There's a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the regular meeting, June 13, 2011, for the Town Council. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, there's a motion, a second, no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. It's really hard to read a note. The next item on the agenda is under reports. And Mr. Brown, do you have anything?
No, just defer to the...
Chief?
Mayor and Council, I was asked to put together a report on the fire fuels and fire behavior in the southwest and southern portion of the United States. Now, some of the things that they record are the energy release components, the severe drought conditions, the live fuel moisture, and the elevated danger values across states such as Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. And based on the information that they were able to get from the weather stations that they have out there, they are saying that we are in the 90th and 97th percentile. And basically, the information they are also getting is that we are setting record highs levels that they've never seen ever. And based on this information, they are anticipating, should there be a fire, we would see rapid rates of spread and long-range spotting, which we're seeing in Los Alamos and other areas in New Mexico and Arizona. The long-range weather forecast for the next 30 to 90 days is that we're going to see elevated, higher than normal temperatures. And based on this information, we're probably not going to see a lot of rain. The fuels are critically dry and will continue to drop in moisture content. So what does that mean why should we be concerned as firefighters and the public? Well, firefighters and the public are at a level risk that should a wildfire occur with these type of fire conditions, the rate of speed and the intensities would keep us from being able to suppress these fires. Everybody's watching the news, everybody's reading the media. We're seeing it everywhere. Another thing that they mentioned in the report, that the 90th percentile ignition potential remains very high, and new fires or spot fires will grow rapidly and outpace suppression efforts by firefighters. They're also saying that if there was a fire, you're going to see rapid spread, you're going to see large acres consumed by fire. So based on all this information, and I've met with my staff, I've been pretty vocal about asking people to refrain from purchasing fireworks, and I cannot with good conscience feel comfortable having a public fireworks display this year. We have it right behind this building here. Southwest Concrete had offered to water down the whole area. My concern was on the east side of the hill here, where there's a large amount of vegetation, should something go wrong. I think we need to concentrate on having our firefighters, rather than setting the display and having them there, in the event that something goes wrong, we need to have them available should there be a fire elsewhere. Historically, we have seen the majority of our fires during the 4th of July period. Last year, we were fortunate we had, I believe, 5 fires, or small spot fires. 3 years ago, we had approximately 30 fires. And at that time, we had severe drought conditions, but they weren't as what we're seeing now. So once again, I want to state publicly that we will not be having a public fireworks display. Any questions?
I just want to comment, if you look at this list, there's three pages and that much of the 4th page. These are all resources, federal resources that we generally have available to our area and to assist the fire department in responding to fires. And out of every one of those lines of resource, there's 6 lines that say available. So when the chief is worried about his staff and making sure that he's got resources available, this is what the feds are looking at right now for our area. I mean, everything is out fighting fires. I mean, we don't have backup to call. So this is available on the web. And then he mentioned all the fuel measurements that they use, and this is truly way beyond fireworks. This is about ignition of fires from any source. I mean, don't pull your car into the shoulder and high grass. Don't be running ATVs all over wildlands that have high grass. This is just a critical time of year when he mentions the 97th percentile. 97th and above is uncharted territory. They've never, ever, ever in the history of the United States, since they've been measuring, seen above 97th percentile. I mean, it's really, really dry. I follow all the fires. Just today, I've watched 5 or 6 fires start up across New Mexico. And that's on top of the big ones that we've had going on in northern New Mexico and down in our area in southeast Arizona. So I truly support the chief's decision, and I definitely would not want to be in his shoes if we were to do a public display and something did happen. So I think you've used good information and made a good decision.
You know, I just want to state that our decision has nothing to do with the current survey that's being conducted by the Sun News. It's not based on the negative phone calls that both myself and my staff have been receiving. It has nothing to do with this. It comes down to common sense. And like the gentleman said earlier, we need to exercise common sense. In this instance, I feel very comfortable with that. Also want to publicly thank Albertsons. We spoke to him yesterday, and he's assured us that they're not going to sell fireworks. The manager from Walmart indicated that he was not going to sell. I want to thank James Coons for not setting up his tent, so I'm very grateful to that.
We also had a recommendation of signs. I forget what the sign said.
To warn people about that there's no ignition legal.
Like yard signs. I mean,
I don't know where, they just need to be all over town, because I think there's some people, they don't come to this meeting, they go through the paper, and they don't know that they can't like the ones they have. That's my concern.
We've got a banner hanging over 6th Street and Bullitt Street And we've got a couple of banners hanging in front of the station that has a number, so you can call that, and we can explain the restrictions in detail.
Is it within our sign ordinance for people to put up yard signs that say warn of danger?
People can put up yard signs on their property, yes.
Anything else?
Nope.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Any report from the police department? Thanks. Any other departments here to report? If not, we're going to go into what's on your agenda. Under reports, presentation about the Southwest Regional Planning Organization process and transportation news by Tracy Heffelbauer, Transportation Planner for Southwest New Mexico Council of Governments. Tracy.
Thank you for having me here tonight on your agenda. Can you all hear me okay? Right. Just to start out with, I believe you have attachments in your agenda about the Southwest Regional Planning Organization. If you take anything away from my presentation at all, please take my card. I'm available for any questions relating to transportation at all. I've been in the position since November, so I'm relatively new. They say it takes a whole year to get through all the funding programs to really know what I'm doing, but I will at least find you an answer. So.
And she can help me get that letter to Harold.
Yes, I can. I did have that thought, so that's good. I do keep all records of correspondence through the DOT too, so it's always good to get copies of anything that you send to them.
Very good.
So the first page that you have in your packet is a flow chart. I do this presentation, or the Regional Planning Organization does this presentation every year to all the councils and commissions in our area. This just gives kind of a background on where the process comes from. It all starts with the Safe, Affordable, Flexible, Efficient Transportation Equity Act, a legacy for all users. We love our acronyms. It's a Transportation Act passed in 2005, and that governs all of the funding programs, federal funding programs for transportation. That's administered by the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration through the Metropolitan Planning Organizations and the 50 DOTs. New Mexico Department of Transportation is ours. And they developed regional planning organizations similar to the metropolitan planning organizations to meet the requirements of the Safety Lieu Act, that all federal projects need to be developed in consultation with the local governments. So they contracted with the 7 councils of governments to be those regional planning organizations. And we cover the 13 local governments in the southwest area of the state, which is Luna, Grant, Catron, and Hidalgo counties, and all of those governments that you see. And it covers 2 New Mexico Department of Transportation districts, District 1 and District 6. The town of Silver City is in District 1, and their regional office is in Deming. And just to kind of give you a little bit more in-depth what the Regional Planning Organization does, I've included the brochure that has all of the responsibilities of the Regional Planning Organization. And it's made up of a policy committee and a technical advisory committee. The policy committee is also the Council of Governments board. And they mostly look at the recommendations for projects that we submit to the DOT. The technical advisory committee is made up of a representative from each of the 13 local governments, and it's usually a road supervisor or public works director, someone like that. And they do the bulk of communicating the transportation needs of each local government. And as you can see at the end of the brochure, there's all the different funding programs that the RPO covers. through the Safety Lou, that Transportation Act, they're over 50. So this is just a few of what that covers. And your representative for the town of Silver City is Peter Pena, and he is actually our chair of the Regional Planning Organization and does a wonderful job. And he is the one that looks at all the recommendations from the public and through the town to put as submissions to the Regional Transportation Improvement Program recommendations, which is that spreadsheet that's behind the brochure. And there are a few projects from the town of Silver City on there. Each one of these, I have a project identification form, which is just kind of a general snapshot of what the project is going to be. But you can look down through there that you have Silver Street is number 1 on the roadway project recommendations, which is a really good spot to be in. And Peter Pena has done a little bit more work on that, getting the design, which can make it more attractive for funding. And he's also gotten the certifications for that. And then under the enhancements, you have 32nd Street. And that's for sidewalks and transit stops. Enhancements are kind of beautification or additional types of projects besides just the surface transportation or the roadway. And these are basically just all of the recommendations. You also have one under the planning for Swan Street for drainage and street improvements. So after we get a project identification form, usually the call for projects is around November. We take the project identification forms and prioritize them at a meeting in February. And then after we prioritize this list, we submit it to whichever district, so it would be District 1 for you. And the district looks at their budget priorities and decides what they can actually fund. The funding outlook right now does not look very good. If there's no new injection into the Highway Trust Fund, it could be cut up to half. That's had to be bailed out, I think, a couple times in the last 10 years to the tune of billions of dollars. So they're working on doing that and reworking the Transportation Act this fall. So that should be interesting to see what funding programs come out of that. So the list, once they're recommended to the state, they make the State Transportation Improvement Program, which is the spreadsheet behind our tipper. And that's available on the DOT's website anytime. It's amended quarterly. And I have links to this on our Council of Governments website also if you want to look at that. That's on the brochure. It's www.swnmcog.org. All of our meetings are open to the public. We meet every other month for the Technical Advisory Committee, and that's usually the area where it's most valuable to attend and give your input. Usually there's a representative from the DOT there, from the district, so it's helpful to be there to kind of build those relationships and help improve the communication when there's projects that happen. So that's basically what I do as a transportation planner. I support the local governments in developing projects foremost, and then help to encourage an open forum for communication between the DOT and the public and the local governments.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Yes. Questions? Thank you. Councilor Bedison.
Mr. Mayor, I move for a short break.
There's a motion and a second for a short break. We will be back in 5 minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're in recess. We'll call this meeting of the Silver City Town Council back to order. And the next item on the agenda is update on the implementation of the town's Climate Action Plan 2010 progress, an additional water conservation recommendation to the town's Climate Action Plan, presented by Mary Stecker, Chair of the Mayor's Climate Protection Citizens Advisory Committee. And with her is Allison.
You have to read every word. Hi, my name's Mary Stecker, and this is Allison Civic, and thank you, Mayor, thank you, councilors, and I have to thank, by the way, many of your Town of Silver City staff who helped us to gather up the data that we've got here this evening for the update. There's also in the audience several other current members of the Climate Action Plan. You all might want to stand up, and then I know at least one past member, Jill, is over there, and I haven't really perused the audience, so I might have missed a few others, but so they're here, and if y'all have questions later, you can ask any of us. Allison's going to go ahead and do the water conservation recommendation after I do the overall update. So, all right. Let me take off my glasses one more time so I can read. I think all of you, except James, are actually new on the council from when we began the climate, what we just call the Climate Committee, to be short. And we began in 2008 and spent a year doing quite a bit of research and coming up what in 2009 we presented to the town as the Climate Action Plan. And we've been working on that ever since. We have sort of a cheat sheet. You all should have received all this, by the way, in your packet. So as part of the strategic plan, we did have what I call the tree, and it's essentially a cheat sheet on the plan. It's a short version of what we wanted to do activity-wise, or what were the recommendations in the plan, what were the indicators, sort of the process measures that we wanted to look at to make sure that we were making some sort of progress, what strategies did our research indicate was going to cause our goal to happen and cause our outcome measure to happen. So y'all have that cheat sheet in front of you. I'm not going to read it all again, but just know that our updates each year are based on this sheet that we have in front of us. So a few highlights. Again, we're a little late on getting the update done, so we're using 2010 data, but that's not bad. You know, Department of Health, sometimes we're 2, 3, 4 years later getting our data out in our book form. So we're about 6 months behind the times. So everything that I'm reading tonight really is 2010 data that we're reporting to you now in June of 2011. So one of our recommendations, I'm going to start with just doing a few of the highlights for the recommendations, and don't worry, I won't read them all. But the first one, and one that we're very proud of, was that the recommendation was the creation of an Office of Community Sustainability. And in 2010, I'm very happy to say that the town of Silver City was very willing, and not only willing, but joined in with the County of Grant to open what we now call the Joint Office of Sustainability, the Town and County Joint Office of Sustainability. And Nick Cicillo and Denise Smith, who are 2 staff members, I don't know if there's any other staff members here tonight, but they're both here tonight. There's 5 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff working in that office, and they have been able to do a lot of work in this past year. They've been open now a year, related to weatherization of homes, what we originally were calling neighborhood blitzes, and they've got a different name these days. And just from September through December of 2010, which again we're talking 2010, they were only at that point able to reach 124 households with this neighborhood blitz, or what's now called the Energy Sense program. And just with those 124 households and the weatherization changes they were able to make in those households, an estimation of over $19,000 in gas and electricity costs were going to be saved for those homeowners. An estimation of 143 tons of CO2 was going to be reduced over the course of a year. And there are formulas, there are specific formulas that are used nationwide and internationally that we utilize to do these estimates throughout the plan. Another one of our recommendations had to do with a solar energy installation. That is something that's in progress, and you'll be hearing about that more with next year's update. I can tell you that the power purchase agreement for that to go into effect for the town of Silver City's wastewater treatment plant and well stations is, according to Nick, very close to signatures. So that is anticipated late this year, is it, Nick? To have that for the wastewater treatment plant, to have that up and going, and we're extremely happy that that's been able to come through. I also wanted to focus a little bit on the education that's been going on throughout 2010. You can look through your packet here. There's just a ton of stuff that has happened. And these are only the things that we know of. I'm sure that there's educational components happening that we're not aware of. One example is with a local community member who does the Sun Chaser program. It's an educational program for students specifically, but adults take place or can participate if it's at like a community event. And just last year at 11 schools or school events, she spoke with over 1,000 students. She also held booths at 8 community events. Viva Verde, that began out of that first year of education and is housed through GRIP's office. Viva Verde last year, now it's just an online booklet, but it had close to 4,000 website hits in 2010, and over 3,000 of those were new, I don't know what they're called, attendees at the site, new visits at the site. We have a New Mexico Southwest Green Chamber of Commerce that has over 200 members to date, and in 2010, they did educational outreach themselves. They're continuing that through this year, and there'll be a big update on that next year, I'm sure. But it's those sorts of things that is coming together as a community on a very routine basis, and those are just a very few examples. We also had a high school curriculum that was developed and piloted through Aldo Leopold High School, and that curriculum is going to be offered statewide. It was presented already at a statewide training and is a model for the state to utilize. I wanted to talk a little bit about the LED traffic signals. They were installed late in 2009, so we now have 2010 data on the changing of the traffic signal bulbs to the LED. I'm going to give just one example. We actually had a breakdown of the energy data that one by one looked at all the traffic signals, and we can get that to you, or you can get that yourself very easily. Denise, were you the one that gathered up the electricity data for us? Denise gathered that up for us, and I just chose one traffic light, and it's the one that's at West 14th Street. What is that, Sonic, maybe? Kilowatt hour usage in 2009 was 13,807. Kilowatt hour usage in 2010 was 2,580. Electrical cost in 2009 was $1,763.39. This is just for that one light. Electrical cost in 2010 was $390. There was a 435% decrease in kilowatt hour usage in 2010 using the LED bulbs, and a savings to the town of Silver City of $1,373.39. You see that example all through the electricity report. So, thank you. A local financing structure was something that we highlighted in our original recommendations, and that is really being worked on primarily through now our participation as members of the climate group and also staff from the town of Silver City in the 4-county green jobs and green energy and jobs task force, which was staffed and begun about a year ago with Senator Bingaman's 2 office staff out of Las Cruces, Dara Parker and Melanie Goodman. But the participation 4-county-wide, including from Silver City and Grant County, has been tremendous. You also received some charts as part of your update. And I'm not going to, again, go over every one of those charts, but let me see if there is a little bit of a highlight. One of them is a CO2 emission change. The outcome measure for folks in the audience as well as on TV, and you all, the outcome measure that we were looking at with the Climate Action Plan was a reduction in CO2 emissions. And the specific reduction was, I think, a 15% reduction by 2015. And we do actually have numbers connected to that. It isn't just a percent, but actual numbers, because we did have baseline data. So this chart has to do with CO2 emission changes, and because we changed a little bit of how we're gathering the data, we just focused on 2009 and 2010, but I did want to at least provide a correction to all of you when you're looking at this chart. It's my mistake. I put it together as a group chart of Town of Silver City municipal as well as residential and commercial CO2 emission changes, and the electricity is only the Town of Silver City, so I'm sorry. It actually should have been in a different chart, and I threw it all in together. I did want to mention that, though, using 2009 as our baseline, the Town of Silver City, just municipal government, showed an overall decline of 2% in total electricity usage, and $13,859 less was spent in 2010 as compared to 2009, and that equaled 116 ton of CO2 emission reduction. We also have a chart for you for municipal water usage. For the most part, Town of Silver City municipal water usage from 2009 to 2010 went down 11.7%. In terms of our residential, commercial, other, we actually had an increase, and a substantial increase, from the fiscal year 09 to fiscal year 10. And I spoke with Robert Escada about some of those reasons. They aren't in the first rendition of this water usage chart that you received. I did send late this afternoon a second rendition. I'm not sure if you've received it yet, but you did. Okay, great. So some of the reasons for that, potential reasons, because we don't know for sure, might be as simple as the Tyrone Association meters were replaced. Those meters had been drastically under-reading the water usage, and so now they're reading the water usage correctly, and the gallons being counted for Tyrone are up by, I think it's like 20 million gallons. I better read that and make sure. Yeah, 20 million gallons increase. So that could be one of the reasons why the other category increased so much. The other category includes water associations, water agreements, easements, anything that is not metered, or excuse me, anything that is metered water but is not Town of Silver City municipal usage. We are looking, and we'll be working with Robert on this. I spoke with him again today at better, sort of best practice ways to measure that water. We're just constantly struggling to make sure we're getting a really accurate rendition of the data. And then the gallons of gasoline chart shows gallons that were sold. You can see pretty drastic increases through 2008, 2009, and 2010, as well as the gasoline CO2 emissions based on that. I wasn't going to spend any more time on the highlight. I hope you all will have some questions and answers for us. But first, I'd like Allison to present the water conservation addendum that we'd like to add on to the climate action plan. So here's Allison.
Great. Excuse me. Thank you. So the subcommittee of the Climate Committee met and talked a lot about water conservation. The water sector represents the largest category of energy use and greenhouse gas emissions for the town. Water pumping and treating represents 57% of the town's energy costs, which is about $800,000 a year, and about 64% of our greenhouse gas emissions. So installing our PV system at the wastewater treatment plant and the well fields is going to go a long way to helping us reduce our energy costs over the next 20 years. But it still makes sense for us to continue to look for ways to reduce our energy use from water pumping and treating through water conservation. At the same time, we can realize greenhouse gas emission reductions, and we can also save water. And I know many of you know that water conservation is the most cost-effective way for us to extend the life of our water supplies here in Silver City. And I was pleased that the mayor mentioned adaptation because, water conservation is also a really important way for us to adapt to less precipitation, hotter, drier climate. So I think this water conservation recommendation is really important on a number of fronts. We set as a target 15% reduction in 2009 water use levels. This would result in a savings of 654 tons of carbon dioxide, as well as 342 acre-feet of water, and save us $367,950 a year in electricity costs. We'd like to see the Water Utilities Department, Robert Escada's crew, continue doing the great job that they've been doing, reducing their unaccounted for losses throughout the system, so through leak detection and repair. So the town's been helping the water associations with lending some of their technical equipment to identify where leaks are happening in the system and get those repaired. That's a huge benefit. Also, we'd like to recommend that the Office of Sustainability pursue a water conservation plan to figure out the best ways, where's the biggest bang for our buck in terms of water conservation. So things like low flow shower heads, a water conservation ordinance for outdoor water use, laundry to landscape water reuse programs, rainwater harvesting, a whole bunch of things that could be looked at to reduce our water use. As part of the water planning that's been going on for the 4 counties of southwestern New Mexico, a consultant did a report on the potential for water conservation in the 4 counties of southwestern New Mexico, and just with pretty basic water conservation measures, we could be saving 4,200 acre-feet of water a year throughout southwestern New Mexico. So there's a lot of potential here, and it's actually a pretty low-cost way to save water, but also to save energy. Thanks.
And before I ask if there's any questions from you all, I did want to mention that the Climate Committee as a whole had a couple of suggestions. I don't know if I'm talking into that or not. Suggestions that we're hoping, number one, that the town will continue to implement the plan and any addendums that come onto it, and other sustainability efforts that not just the town, but we hope our county and our region are interested in, and that the town can help support them in. We're hoping that there'll be continued support for the Joint Office of Sustainability, and that you're going to be seeing some pretty major savings here in the next year or so, and we're hoping that some of those savings can be repositioned to help support that office and the work that they're doing within the county. And also they're assisting regionally with folks with technical assistance. I know Nick has spoken or has also brought together groups of people to listen to presentations related to what they can do to improve their situation in their towns and in their counties. So continued support for the Joint Office of Sustainability, and continued support for the 4-county effort, what I call the Bingaman Task Force, but the 4-county effort around energy efficiency and job creation. And then I'm thinking that I'll be leaving the Climate Committee here this summer, but I'm certainly going to recommend as I leave that we'll have 3 years of data now gathered up by next year's update. And we've been keeping track of the tons of CO2, which is the outcome measure we're looking at here. We've been keeping track of that. So I think that probably with next year's update, 3 years behind us, we might want to go ahead and do a totaling of all the CO2 reductions that have happened in the past, through 09, 10, and then through 11. So any questions from any of you, any of the staff, audience? And we have, as I said, we've got members of the Climate Committee here, past and current. So.
Just a couple of comments, Mary. One is, I hope we can fit the group that falls under adaptation somewhere in strategies or somewhere on your tree diagram. We use this diagram for a lot of stuff.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good to know, James. Right.
But I think it's a critical enough point that we need to be specific in addressing some of those issues. Secondly, and I did speak to Mary about this the other day, there was several issues came up in the conference in D.C., and one of the key factors, and Councillor Gil Sorg out of Las Cruces has this very memorable voice, and I can't get it out of my head. Every meeting that we went to, he's highlighting, it's about jobs. And a lot of the federal legislation that's out there, there's going to be some serious bills that have bipartisan support right now on electric vehicle use and the infrastructure to support them. We need to make sure that we're tracking that legislation, that we're tracking the results of it, make sure that our community gets on board with that. And that, for one, obviously there's the issues with the electric vehicles and using less gas, cutting our road fund. But there's also the issue, if we all go home at 5 o'clock and plug them in, our infrastructure is going to have some issues. So it's no different than super hot days when everybody turns on the air conditioner and we all hear PNM complaining that our peak load is stressing their system. So we need to make sure that we're following those issues and stay on track. And going back to the jobs issue, I really want to target, as we reappoint many members to the community or the committee, guess it's a committee. It's, yeah.
Who knows? We have a long title.
I really want to target the economic development features. I want to target people with small businesses. I think we need to target the membership of the committee to really take a global view of these issues and address them community-wide, and as well as continue the work that we're doing. The work that we're doing is definitely saving us money, and that's obviously beneficial to the town operations. It's also the work that Nick and his crew do is saving citizens money all over the county, and we tend to capture that on the retail side oftentimes. So we appreciate all those efforts, and I think by kind of targeting the appointments to the committee as we replace some of you that are moving on to other things, I think we can add to the benefit. And we'll work with you some more on exactly who needs to be, what sectors should be targeted for participation. Any other? Councillor Thompson.
I have a couple comments. I think it's really important that we pursue these aims aggressively, and I don't think the recommendations necessarily have to come from this group. I think that each department head can be thinking about how we can conserve energy. I think it's good for everybody. I really like that you guys have based this on data, because that allows you to experiment and see what actually works. A lot of times we think a particular approach is going to be effective, but until we have the numbers, it's really hard to know that. So having that baseline really puts us ahead. And I'm really, really happy to hear that the mayor is excited about climate change, to hear all this stuff. This is exciting, and maybe we can really support you guys in the work you're doing.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just a very general comment. You know, it seems like everything, like you guys coordinate with the town staff very well, and the technical nature of your mandate and the opinions that can muddy the water here. It's just very impressive that you guys work with operations management and our staff and everything, and I'm really pleased that you guys work so well together. There seems to be very good communication, and even though I'm sure there's lots of hurdles there and good debate, I'm really pleased with the actions and the activities that have come out of your committee.
Thank you, and once again, we send the thank you on to the staff, because they've been very good the past 8, 9, 10, 11, 4.5, well, 3.5 years at getting us data, because we needed all that to get started, just to pull it together. So
I'll just give you a funny little story. My wife signed up at one of the events that the Sustainability Committee or office was promoting their services. Well, then she went home and put me to work winterizing our house and replacing all the door seals, and because she doesn't want us to look like complete fools when they do show up to assess our So I have new door seals on all my doors, and
you might be one of those houses that only cost a couple bucks instead of an average of 30 or something.
Probably gained a few more skills from her signing up. Any other comments, questions? Alex? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I wanted to mention one more thing. I apologize. I didn't go over most of what we worked on, but I did want to quickly mention the solar-covered parking lot, because that is the parking structure, not parking lot. But that is going up sort of kind of as we speak. And, again, tribute to the Office of for getting that going and for persevering, and tribute to our community for sticking with us as we waited for that to get started. So thank you all, and thanks to the folks that are on the committee, and I really hope that any community members out there will send our mayor a letter of application to be on the committee. We could use you. Thanks.
Thank you. Do you want to say something, Nick?
Police. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, town manager. One of our staff members, Denise Smith, suggested that I do this, and actually, it's a long follow-up. I'm sorry?
Introduce yourself.
Oh.
I know you.
I'm Nick Cicello, the Director of the Joint Office of Sustainability. I've been with the office for a little bit over a year, and again, the office, based on what Mary Stecker was saying, really has come out of the work of the Climate Committee, the hard work of the Climate Committee. And I had mentioned to Councilman Bettison about a year ago in the farmers market, and John Crow will also be my witness. And I was initially thinking, when I was in D.C. and I was with the Department of Housing and Community Development, there was a woman in Baltimore who had a young family member lead poisoned. And she became an advocate and formed a nonprofit, accomplished all kinds of things over the years. And Baltimore actually declared a day in her honor by name. And I was initially working closely with Allison at the time, and I was suggesting that given the contributions of Allison over the years in terms of Gila River conservation, the ongoing efforts with the Arizona Water Settlements Act and her contribution to the Climate Committee. But also, as I got to know Mary Stecker better, I said that there really ought to be kind of two queens acknowledged here. The fact that they're both leaving the Climate Committee is really a major loss, but I'm not here to acknowledge that as much as to thank them personally and professionally. And if there's some way that the council and yourself, Mr. Mayor, might acknowledge them, I think they have gone way beyond what is typically expected in volunteer hours. And I certainly wouldn't be standing here, and nor would the office be in existence if it wasn't for their unique contribution. And so I'd like to personally thank you for your efforts, and thank you for letting me come up spontaneously.
Thank you, Nick. We'll take that under advisement. And keeping right in line with the ongoing discussion, the next item on the agenda is a report by the Wellness Coalition's Youth Conservation Corps regarding the recent work completed at Boston Hill. Sam?
Just fire this up for these guys real quick.
Were you scared? You brought back up.
I know.
All in red. Fireworks, so I just want to make sure I had my crew with me.
Okay.
They do look ready to do that, though.
You guys want to introduce yourselves real quick while I get the technology going?
Well, I'm Tyler Sherman. I'm the Youth Conservation Corps trainer or supervisor, and this is my crew.
I'm Michael Gomez. I'm a crew leader.
I'm Catherine Wood. I, too, am a crew leader.
Philip Ray, and I'm a crew member.
My name is Parker McCauley. I'm a crew member.
My name is Cody Overstreet, and I'm a crew member.
All right. Well, and you guys know me, I think. I'm Sam Costello. I'm the director at the Wellness Coalition. I'm waiting for that to fire up. But while I do, I'm going to give a brief intro, and if that doesn't work, we'll just proceed without the technology assist. You guys have pictures in front of you. But just to give you a brief introduction about the Wellness Coalition's Youth Conservation Corps program, we enroll around 100 Corps members each year doing work and service at healthcare centers, at schools. These folks are in our forest stewardship program doing trail work and forest restoration work. The Corps members earn really over, in terms of jobs, over $500,000 a year and over $180,000 worth of educational awards. So these young men and women will not only be earning their wages for doing their service, but they're also getting an education award to further their education after their work with us. We're funded through the State YCC Commission. That's the project we want to talk about today. But we also work with our Forest Service partners, the BLM, and the AmeriCorps program. For Youth Conservation Corps particularly, we focus on 18 to 25-year-olds, training and education. And for this project, I'm going to let Tyler take over here in just a second. But we had multiple groups of projects for both the Forest Service, for the Village of Santa Clara, and of course a project up in Boston Hill for the town of Silver City. And I want to acknowledge really quickly that Alex and I have already started talking about next year's proposal to be submitting, and really excited to see some support and hopefully some great projects that we're going to try to get funded for next year's crew as well. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Tyler. You may not have visual aids, but...
Thank you. So mostly what we focused on Boston Hill was drainage structures and trying to get rid of some of the bad trails that users have created and now are just waterways, and trying to create a more sustainable, longer lasting route, and widening up some narrow places of trail. And I guess we can talk about the pictures now here. This lower picture to the left, I got this thing, so. This is what we call just a French drain, and the rocks are actually gapped, and underneath this dirt here is buckets and buckets of rock. I would say well over a ton, if not around 2 tons, hand carried in here. Just so when water does flow down this canal, users won't have to be wet or muddy, and the trail is ultimately still usable. And this is a drainage structure that I was talking about. This is actually a really steep grade here, and it's just simply a bar dug out and with dirt mounded up, so when the water does flow down the trail, it can leave rapidly and not have a lot of buildup. We installed 20 of these signs provided by HMS, I believe, maybe La Vida, I can't remember, but we installed 20 of those around the hill.
What are the signs? I didn't read what they said.
They're just "You Are Here" signs with each one has a map and they have numbers. This is a reroute on Cooper Street, and it replaces a trail that was along this side, which was just a waterway. And we took it from the entrance there all the way up on this ridge here, and built multiple rock walls along it like this to hopefully reinforce it when water does come. This is a similar type structure to keep water from flowing straight through here and just blowing out the trail, actually keeping a route so multi-users can pass each other and not have to destroy the trail anymore. This is just a small rock wall right above the Cooper Street reroute. The way we make these is with 3 points of contact, no cement, and they're really solid. I mean, you can go jump and try to tear apart the walls and they're not going to come out. All these are same style, same entrance there. This is Cooper Street. This is actually Cheyenne Street trailhead. It was a really bad section, just blown out all from water. The water came straight through the trail here, so we just made a structure that would hopefully make it last a bit longer. And this is a small gap and some rocks that I could see, bikers may have a hard time getting their pedals over the rocks, so we tried to raise it up a bit for them. And I think that's all. Well, this is just a group picture of, not of this crew, but a couple of them. We've had a lot of people come and go, and these guys are the tough ones that are still here with me. So, any questions for us or for these guys?
No comment.
Counselor?
Tyler and both Mandy were great when they started working on Boston Hill. They asked all the mountain bikers where some problem areas are. We were actually out there when you were doing a lot of the work. The trails are some of the best in Grant County. They're really good. It'll be really pretty interesting to see what happens when we finally get water. And you guys go back to see how well it works.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about trail work is that you work on it and see what happens, and you work on it some more. It's not theoretical. It's incremental. I think what you guys have done is really good. I am excited to see what else you do for the town.
Thanks a lot.
I'm excited to see what you do for yourselves. You're learning some great skills and teamwork and how you all work together. You're also getting to see accomplishments in your work. You're also learning what it's like to have to work outside when it's really, really hot. And so I just truly encourage all of you to use your education accounts that you're developing and pursue your education. There may be a day when you don't feel like lugging rocks up hills.
Maybe.
The work you do is very remarkable, and I hope it proves that throughout your life.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments?
I would just want to encourage everybody to, I know it's not Silver City property, but these guys did some fantastic work up at the Big Tree. And for those of you who enjoy that trail and you haven't been back in a while, go back and check what they've done back there. They've done some great work. So we're going to do more work for the town next year, but this is our project this year. So.
Great.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
New business. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of notice of intent, ordinance number 1180, an ordinance providing for restrictions on the sale and use of fireworks. Sorry, I didn't have it open. As many of you are well aware, the earlier discussion, the Fireworks Licensing and Safety Act is what regulates the sale and use of fireworks around New Mexico. This act commands the state fire marshal to enforce the provisions thereof, thus recognizing that fireworks and the dangers associated therewith are matters directly relevant to fire control and to public safety. Basically what that says is we feel that because they've assigned that regulation to the state fire marshal and not to economic development or some other money agency, they have acknowledged that it is a public safety issue. In statute, the state legislature has granted municipalities the power to define and abate nuisances, to pass ordinances providing for the health, safety, and welfare of its inhabitants, and to take such actions as are necessary and proper to protect persons and property, thus recognizing the local government best knows of current and local conditions affecting its public safety. And basically the case law on that is almost the rest of the laws that regulate municipalities' conduct and what empowers us and their restrictions. The charter of the town, and most towns, regardless of whether they're territorial or not, specifically give the town council the power by ordinance to make regulations to secure the general health of the inhabitants of the town. The New Mexico Constitution references municipalities' legislative powers and specifically states that, quote, "The purpose of this section is to provide for maximum local self-government. A liberal construction shall be given to the powers of municipalities," end quote. In statute, once again, they have regulated what we can and cannot regulate. I feel, and this NOI is basically stating that in whole. The Act places unreasonable limitations on New Mexico municipalities' ability to generally regulate the sale and use of fireworks, notwithstanding local concerns for public safety, which limitations are a usurpation of local prerogative suggested by the New Mexico Constitution. And should this pass, the Town Council will find that the power and authority to proclaim extreme and severe drought and fire conditions and thereafter to impose reasonable restrictions on the sale and use of fireworks within the town, including the total ban thereof, is necessary for the health, welfare, and safety of the town and its inhabitants. The rest of it basically says we don't just wing it and say it's dry, I'm getting a lot of phone calls, people are harassing me, we're going to go ban something. It says we're going to use science. We use the data that's available to the fire chief, and he makes recommendations to the council in consultation with the town manager to make sure that we do whatever we have to do to protect the life, safety, and health of the citizens. This NOI, should it pass, basically sets us up for, the governor is saying that she's going to support legislation. Our senator says he will support legislation. If they actually decide to change the laws, we're going to already have our ordinance in place. If we run into this situation again next year, we're ready. We could just act on it. If they don't, then we have the other avenues that we are pursuing to the Attorney General and et cetera. This does not ban anything. This NOI, if it passes, would allow the council to ban in accordance to the current situations of any given time. It also basically states it's our charge to protect the life, safety, and health of the citizens, and we're not going to delegate it to the state. We want to keep it, we want to maintain it, and utilize it. And it is my recommendation that the council support this and return the local control of life, safety, and health issues to the local government. Any discussion? Discussion? Comments, discussion from the audience? Please.
I am so heartened by this. This is visionary legislation to me, because I feel that the way things are going federally, on the state level, that there's less and less control that a town can have to protect the health and safety of its citizens. And I applaud you all and you for your work on the ordinance. This is magnificent.
Well, I could tell you, many of you know I attend nearly every day of the legislative session. And I can't tell you how many times I called Alex during the legislative session pulling my hair out that municipalities and local governments was under attack. And it was just pieces of legislation after pieces of legislation that were just stripping power. And it's not about the power, it's about what you elect us to do and what you expect us to do. Not to mention, just look at a basic organizational chart, and that's how our government is structured. We need to make sure that the function follows the organization. And Alan?
Just a point of clarification, if you were to pass this, would it have to, does it go to the state, does it go to the governor, or, I mean, what would happen after this if you were to pass this?
Tonight, we pass a notice of intent.
Notice of intent.
It then has to have I believe, 15-day period for anybody to comment and come up with, if they want to recommend changes or amendments, deletions, and then it comes back to the council after that period, and we will consider it for final passage, considering the input we've received.
And the state really can't do anything about it?
It is my intention that that is a correct statement.
I just want to applaud all of you. In the last year and a half, you have really taken to heart and listened to all the citizens on fireworks, on, you know, the noise, when we talked about the noise and the number of days you could set off fireworks at New Year's and at July 4th, the reduction of the days of sales, and now this year. I mean, I really, really commend you. I've already commended the fire chief for all the work that the fire department, the police department does, but especially all of you, I really thank all of you for listening to all the citizens and taking this to heart. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I really think it's important too to comment. Our town attorney wrote the recommended policy for the municipal league, and he did an exceptional job in drafting that language, and it also had some of the language in there that provoked me to call him back and say, hey, let's push this farther, and why can't we? And we've spent hours, I believe, on the phone in the last few weeks dissecting this NOI, dissecting the municipal league policy, and having some very tough discussions and debates on what we can do, what we can't do, what are the consequences of this, what are the consequences of that, any unintended consequences. I mean, we have some, it'd probably be interesting for some of you to listen to our discussions. They're very good, and I truly appreciate that Robert elevates the discussion to be very global and comprehensive, and at the same time, while we try to protect the citizens, we protect the governing body, which is also should be just as important to you. And thank you.
I'm blushing.
You should be.
You know, I would like to make a comment that I've been actually in the last 11 years that I've been sitting here watching the growth of this government and the progression of this government and the integrity of this government. It's thrilling. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've worked for lots of state, federal, Indian tribes, and this client is the best I've ever had. And leadership is not just having a brain, but it's having the integrity and having the imagination and having the true concern of putting the people in front of ego, personal ego. And you've set a standard for that, Mr. Mayor. And I haven't said anything publicly for years, but this town owes you a lot. And I owe you a lot as an attorney working with an intelligent client that never puts his ego in the way of doing the best for the town. And this particular process, as the process that led to P&M withdrawing 50% of its desired rate increase, which you were in the center of, and this Office of Sustainability, including this photovoltaic project that you've got going, where cities from all over the state are knocking on the door of Nick Cicillo asking for help, and he's generously giving it with your support. And the department heads, every department head, regardless of the situation, whether it's water and utilities or roads or the fire department or the police department or the library, are so devoted to the benefit of this town, and a lot of that has to do with their personal integrity and the example shown by your town manager, who I've worked with from day one. We've been together now 11 years. And having you guys having his confidence and him having your confidence has allowed this town to progress, where if this NOI passes, we're going to have the first ordinance in the state, or the ordinance that the expansion of the fire chief's powers that allowed him to put orders out banning open flame was first in the state and is being borrowed and was borrowed by many municipalities statewide. And I kind of like the idea that we seem to be first in a lot of good stuff that's going on in the state, even though we're small and even though we're fundamentally ignored by Santa Fe. And standing up for what's right in the face of Santa Fe, I think is a credit to this town and is setting an example for other towns around the state. So I could go on and on about the stuff, everything from the Arizona Water Project, where we were the first and only municipality to issue a resolution in support of what Senators Bingaman and Domenici were doing in D.C. that caused this Arizona Water Project, that we were instrumental in starting that energy. And we still are actively involved, providing our expertise, being the only system in the counties in this county that is watering the county. The county provides no water for any of its people. We do. And that is forward-looking, and that's an atmosphere of sharing, viewing the county as our cousins. And that attitude, despite provocations at times that might want to make another government withdraw from interaction, this government has stayed the course, working with other governments and working with the people. So I'm proud to be part of it, and thank you for the opportunity.
Councilor Besson.
I move that we approve Notice of Intent, Ordinance Number 1180, an ordinance providing restrictions on the sale and use of fireworks during periods of extreme or severe drought.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion as stated.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Is there any other discussion? There's a motion and a second to approve Notice of Intent, Ordinance Number 1180, an ordinance providing for restrictions on the sale and use of fireworks during periods of extreme or severe drought. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Before we go on, thank you, Robert, for your speech, and you make me blush. I also want to make it very clear, we set a standard, and by setting and passing laws, we set what this community feels is a standard in how you conduct yourself. We cannot put a cop on every street corner and babysit everybody and identify who might violate a law sometime in the near future. We're setting a standard. Our success, the town's success, depends on the citizens stepping up to that standard and behaving and conducting themselves to that level. Enforcement really should be a last step effort that everything else has failed. And I really hope as we go into these times ahead that people understand that if they want to know how to conduct themselves, look at the standard and stay within that. Don't wait for the cops to catch you. I mean, there's a significant number that do, and they do get caught, but there's better ways, and you can be more successful with your personal life if you just stay within the community standard. And the next item on the agenda is a selection of a voting delegate and alternate to vote at the New Mexico Municipal League's annual conference. And I think most of you, maybe Councilor Ray, this is new to you, but every year at the Municipal League conference, the process that we're in right now, where the Municipal League sets their priorities by a resolution and policy statements, we go to the annual conference of the Municipal League, and we select one person from our municipality to represent the town and vote. And I know I do plan on attending the annual conference. I know Councilor Bettison is attending. I'm sure Mr. Brown is attending. And we need to select our voting delegates to vote for representing Silver City on these issues, so we can fill out the form and mail it back to the Municipal League.
Mayor.
Councilor.
I would like to nominate you to be the voting delegate. You do represent us and everything, and you do it so well.
Thank you. Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Councilor Bedison as an alternate.
Any other nominations? Somebody want to make a motion to close nominations? And
I move that we close nominations and
by acclamation.
accept by acclamation.
There's a motion to close nominations and accept the 2 nominees as the delegates for the town of Silver City by acclamation. Any discussion? Is there a second?
I second it.
There's a motion and a second on all that. Is there any other discussion? There's a motion and a second, no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of resolution number 2011-24, a resolution regarding compensation under professional services contract, town manager, finance director's contract, and that would be Mr. Brown. And I am very honored to sponsor this resolution, and I think I could just say ditto from what Robert just said. The 2 positions that Alex holds are very demanding and require an extensive amount of knowledge, not just on the operations of the town day to day, but the regulations that we have to follow, all the committees that we stick him on, and he ends up being in leadership positions on most of those, which is selected by his peers on those committees. He has also been the one that basically sets us up for the financial security that we've enjoyed over the many, many years. And he did that as well by foregoing his contract compensation increases that he was entitled to in previous years to ensure that we didn't have to lay off staff and cut wages. And I just couldn't say more how deserving he is. I think he brings great knowledge and as well as institutional knowledge to the position, and he is very deserving of a 5% increase that is proposed by this resolution. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Council.
I just have to say that, I'm going on my 2nd term as town councilor, and I am so impressed by Alex and his financial management skills and ability to run the town as well as he does. I know that, the department heads work with you and respect you, and I just really can't say enough except for to agree with what the mayor has said and also what Councilor Scaffron has said. I mean, it just, I enjoy the relationship I have with you and the ability to be able to talk freely with you about concerns citizens have and the wealth of knowledge that you're able to provide me and others in terms of responding and once again how you interact with your department heads. So I would like to move that we approve resolution number 2011-24, a resolution regarding compensation under professional services contract, town manager, finance director's contract, which is Mr. Brown.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion as stated.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd like just a comment, something you usually don't say around staff, but he's probably underpaid for either one of those positions singularly. So I definitely believe that he's entitled at a minimum to 5%.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I have a comment.
Councilor Rick.
I told you, my wife has already threatened me many times about that, so.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Comments? There's a motion and a second to approve resolution 2011-24, a resolution regarding compensation under a professional services contract for the town manager, finance director's contract. Mr. Brown? And roll call, please.
Councilor Bedison.
Aye.
Councilor Thompson.
Aye.
Councilor Ray.
Aye.
Councilor Mullins.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is appointment of one member to the library board. And we have one opening, and I have one application. Maureen Craig is basically an incumbent board member, and I think she's highly capable, qualified, and active participant in the Public Library Board, and I would recommend her reappointment to that position. Do I have consensus?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Just consensus. We will send her the appropriate letter. And with that, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
A second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.